rana, kia rana.
All right, here we go. Another Prepare Pacific Talanoa, kia ora tātou katoa toa. I guess in recognition of Cook Islands Language Week here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Just want to say a big shout out for Cook Islands Language Week, and also to all our organisations and communities and businesses out there that are doing their part to acknowledge Cook Islands Language Week. But welcome to another Prepare Pacific Talanoa discussion. Obviously, we have our discussions in the various different Pacific languages, and tonight it is an English discussion. And tonight we are having a discussion around the topic of mental health and well-being. Super important, especially during these, there's the word again, unprecedented times. And let me introduce you to our panel. Firstly, my name is Johnson Rayala. I am not a mental health specialist. I'm just here to ask the questions and to smile and let our beautiful panelists go at it. But first off, we've got Fred Fata, who is a registered social worker at Lotofale, one of the oldest Pacific mental health institutions here in New Zealand. I think 25 years, Fred was saying. So Talofale, Fred, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Good to be here.
Thank you. And also we have the beautiful Dr. Liz Mati, Senior Manager and Clinical Psychologist at Levi. Dr. Liz brings the beauty to tonight's beauty. And I'm going to say beauty and probably the brains of all three of us combined together. So Dr. Liz, thank you very much and welcome to our panel this evening.
Thank you so much, Johnson. It's nice to be here.
And we have finally the one and only Pulotu, Bruce Levi, who is Impact Lead, but he said to us, you know, he wants to be called the Impact Player. So coming in from the bench, maybe, at the Cause Collective. So talofalava, Bruce. Talofalava, Pulotu.
Good rana, Johnson and Fred and Dr. Liz.
So let's get straight into it. You know, COVID-19 and the coronavirus has, let me just say it bluntly, has really stuffed everything up. Not only in the health sector, but we're starting to see effects. It has been for a while now in the mental health and well-being space. And first question that I want to put it to the panel is, what are you hearing about mental health and well-being in Pasifika communities specifically? Now, especially months after coming out of lockdown. So can we start with you, Dr. Liz? What are some of the things that you're hearing on the front line there through your work with Levi?
Sure. So we're hearing like a mixture of things, and in our community workshops that we do at Levi and also through people that actually work on the front line, we are hearing stories that they are noticing or feeling that there's increased stress in our communities and in our families. We've gotten feedback from whānau order navigators that in particular depression and anxiety, that they're feeling that those rates are increasing and they're seeing that more. We've also seen and heard about stories of resilience as well, and Pasifika families coming together and uniting, even during lockdown and with the limited, I suppose, connectability of things, people actually reconnecting in those spaces too. So I think overall there is a sense that mental health concerns are increasing, but we are seeing the resilience as well in our communities.
Can you add to that in terms of your role at the Auckland District Health Board, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm working alongside the acute end of the mentally unwell. So in the community where our clients are a little bit marginalized anyway, they're really sort of used to this sort of uncertainty or being, you know, shunted to the outskirts of society. So when the lockdown sort of came about, I think it really highlighted for them the rest of society to finally get a taste of what we've been experienced. Our everyday life is now a reality for everybody. But I don't know, I think with post lockdown, in the return for everyone to normality, I think the stress of returning to the status quo sort of causing a bit of anxiety for the community I'm seeing. I think with the fear of everyone going back to the rat race and the in consideration of, you know, normal. You know, Auckland is a very hard place to navigate for the best of us, let alone people that are trying to survive on the margins. So when we had a bit of like a resurgence of core values and we were all happy and focusing on you know what was important, that brought everyone sort of level. And now that we're gone back to the way sort of it was before, I think a lot of my population feel like, you know, we've started to, you know, forget that priorities surfaced during that time, and now we're just back to every man for themselves sort of thing. And you know, family was a big part of it last time, and we did a big swoop on trying to get the homeless off the street, and that really sort of pinpointed a disparity of where we're giving our efforts. And so hopefully that continues after the pandemic and the fear of, you know, we were all a bit more focused on humanity and the most vulnerable, but now we're back to normal and we're just pushing them back. That's what I'm starting to feel a bit through my family.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that, Fred, and just a reminder as well of the other things that's happening in that space too. Pulotu, in terms of your work with the Course Collective as well, what are some of those things that you're hearing or seeing on the front line?
I think like the communities that we've talked to have talked about exactly what Dr. Liz and Fred are saying, the anxiety from loss, the loss of work, the loss of people, and the loss of kind of normalcy. And, you know, we talk about the grieving process, but I think, and people did talk about like feeling like grief and anticipating things that hadn't lost yet, but even the worry about potentially losing something, whether it be work or financial security. So those things have come through the community quite strong. And even, I mean, probably the cool thing about post-lockdown is no more nominations for the 25 push-ups, because Liz never did my nomination. I think I nominated you 3 times, Liz, or maybe it was Fred.
Well, we all have different ways of managing our well-being.
Yeah, and absolutely. But,
challenges.
Yeah, all those challenges finished. But one of the things that we did, and I think everything what you said, Liz, about people being resilient and kind of committing to like goals together as a family, and I suppose even in our workplace, we all kind of keeping each other accountable. What are those things that we said that that kept us well, and we're going to keep doing post lockdown? And one of my ones was just doing more around the house, you know, doing the dishes and you know those things that a husband's supposed to do. but that
all right.
Even those things, but the loss is the big one that our people sometimes experience, and even the manifestations of understanding that, you know, young people kind of projecting their anger, and it's good that we've seen some resolution to what we saw with our Te Lasau family and Kelston, and huge leadership that came through those. You know, people are stepping up to supporting our young people who are trying to find the language, trying to like what is this emotion. So there's a lot of there was a sense of all that stuff we talked about, the grieving process, but people didn't know that they were grieving unless you've actually. And so even the loss of tikanga, the loss of bereavement, the loss of closure, the loss of being able to say goodbye. You know, I had a wedding during our lockdown. We had a few colleagues that we dearly close to. We didn't have a chance to, but we've had memorial services since then. So there's been quite a few memorial services, and then it's just trying to understand that emotion. But I think the support, the alofa, the aroha from everyone in your workplace and family have kind of kept us pushing through this new normal.
Yeah, because I guess it's
Yeah.
something that, you know, we know that culture has been hugely impacted. I don't know, Liz, did you want to add on to that before we move on to our next question?
Could you tell? I just wanted to link in terms of what Fred was saying around, you know, what he's seen in more the severe mental health services and stuff, and it's it's sad, that's kind of happening. It was really nice how we all came together. We talked about the team of 5 million, and there was that sense kind of like of collective community and our values. We had chances to live by those, and also it shone a light on those people that were less fortunate. And kind of moving forward, I think what we're seeing is that, you know, there was a recent report in June by Richie Poulton coming out of University of Auckland that they're predicting that potentially mental health issues may actually double from what they are now, and that those people that were there's potentially a whole new lot of people that are going to, now we call them the newly at risk, that are also going to need kind of wellbeing services and support due to all of the impacts and stuff that are occurring because of COVID. And I should have mentioned that, so Levi is very much in the prevention space, and there's a big push now, and rightly so, that we need to be ensuring that all levels of our society, you know, we're looking after their well-being, not just kind of at the bottom of their cliff. And I feel like in our communities, we're starting we're seeing that too. We're really realizing that, and people are starting to mobilize from a community level as well, and wanting to get involved and wanting to support and make sure that the well-being of their communities. There were a lot of Facebook groups that popped up, right, around connecting. And so that's been a real positive. I think it's unfortunate though that it is predicted that the full psychosocial impact is really yet to come, especially with things such as the wage subsidy ending, you know, this month and next month as well.
No, thank you very much for that. Just wanted to move into another question. You know, we know that a lot of our people across the lockdown period, and even now, you know, make a living through the essential services areas. You know, lots of our people work in essential services, and they worked across level 4. I'm quite curious to know, you know, is there support, and what is the support being offered to these people? Fred, maybe we can start with you.
I mean, again, Johnson, I kind of see the lower socioeconomic communities, our Pacific sort of people, but those even on the bottom scale of that. And I know that a lot of the least paid workers of our community were, you know, heroes during that time, and there was a little bit of, you know, communal or even nationwide celebration and acknowledgement of it. But, you know, was there real actual credit, you know, to those that were you know, facing that during the most vulnerable time of our country and our global sort of community? Like the rest of us were so grateful for them leaving their homes when we were most sort of at risk and most protective of our loved ones, but they were able to go out and keep our country running. But I don't see much you know, stability of their workplaces coming out of it. I don't see any financial or, you know, workplace support for them to you know, come back to a job that's going to reward what you just sacrificed for us. I don't think that there's been any sort of economic assurance by the government that, you know, those sectors of our economy are going to be fine. Because and this is just my personal opinion, like now that we've seen we've had the you know, privilege of hindsight, we can really survive without the top end of that economy. We can really survive with the basic sort of stripped down to the actual functioning of our you know, economy. But now that we're back to the apathy and the selfishness of that divide, where's their certainty, where's their sort of assurance and stuff? So I don't see any support. I don't see any psychological sort of support or assurance to their families. You know, we've seen those kids in South Auckland, the students from Aorere really make that obvious that their parents had to, you know, work 2 jobs, or their students had to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. And that's never been, that was the buzzword at the time, but no one's really given it any credence now. So that's my frustration. Sorry, Johnson.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And you know what? This is the space to, you know, the I guess safe space to let us know those thoughts, because you know, if you're thinking that, then I'm sure there are others that are probably thinking on that too. And I'm going to come back. I'm probably going to leave the last comment to Dr. Liz on this question, because you know, you did bring up the question of services and all that sort of stuff. But Pulotu, do you have anything to add there before we go to Dr. Liz on this?
Yeah, probably have to agree with Fred. There's probably not a whole heap. I know for those working like in kind of helping services, the supervision kind of got ramped up. So the well-being for our staff, and it's good. Like, we need more of that, but still many more don't get that kind of support for their well-being, or even know what's on offer. And I know that a lot for those, especially with the new working arrangement, working from home, and then this idea of kind of working half and half. Some have only just started to come back to work, and even the whole stress and transition for that's quite huge for them. So even at this time, it's all mixed with kind of the new normal. People feel more productive working from home, and then all of a sudden we're going back to kind of back in the office, and so we still and most bosses and people are supporting their folks, you know, with family, and the kind of during lockdown you're able to arrange your baby sitting or your childcare, and then all of a sudden that kind of goes out of the window because you have to come back to work. I think there's still a grey area for our people, and not enough support. Yeah, Marlo.
No, thank you, Pulotu. Dr. Liz, you know, the boys seem to, you know, kind of agree with each other. Where do you stand on this in terms of essential service workers and the support?
I mean, I have to tend to agree that there's not enough that is available, and it doesn't appear that there is stuff specific for essential workers. I think probably different organisations may be doing it better than others. I think maybe in the helping sector, and you know, you'd hope that they'd be doing it better, looking after their own staff. But you know, those people that were working at supermarkets and other places like that, and in essential security and at the airports, like from my understanding, there's nothing specifically designed for them. But what I would recommend to those people, if they are listening and stuff as well, is to try and seek out employee assistance programs, or better known as EAPs, to get counselling, because we know that for essential workers, they experience a different level of stress and additional stress than, you know, we were at home in the comfort of our homes, and yes, it was stressful going out to the supermarkets from time to time, but we were much more safer, and we know that when people are experiencing stress for prolonged periods, or long periods, can lead to chronic stress, and that can have long-term impacts on well-being and even your physical well-being. So I don't think enough has been done, and specifically done for those essential workers. There may be things out there that I'm not aware of, but I do suggest that, you know, they do check in on themselves and seek support when needed. And it would be really normal to have lingering impacts or feelings due to that experience, that having to go out during that time.
Yeah, and you know, before we move on to our next question, you mentioned EAP, and just to share a quick personal experience from EAP is that I've only requested the service once, and this was late last year around September, and unfortunately I didn't have a great experience with that. I really needed to talk to somebody, but what happened was my appointments kept getting changed, and three times EAP had, and this is here in Wellington. 3 times my appointment got changed, and you know what? When it came to the 3rd time, I was just like, you know, I'd rather use other words, but I was like, stuff this, you know. And the appointments keep getting changed out to like 3-4 weeks, and I don't know whether that's pressure on the system or whatnot, but I hope our people out there can have a much better experience around EAP than I did. But
Can I add to that? Ultimately, EAP is a collection of counsellors, right? They sign up to provide EAP services. What I would recommend is that if you are experiencing that, and you'd hope that counsellors would be good in keeping their appointments and stuff, is that you actually ask for another one. But also that if you do see someone in that experience and you have that first appointment, if they don't fit for you, it's okay to ask for a different person. Being a psychologist myself, I openly say that not everyone fits, not everyone's the right fit. So I would recommend to people that when you are going and seeing someone, if you're feeling like unheard or that they just don't get you, to talk to someone else, and they will understand that too. And if there are issues like that in the system, you need to say, hey, that's not good enough. But I know for a lot of our Pacific find it hard to do that.
And
good point.
Probably leads on to our next question as well, in terms of finding it hard to I guess approach the subject. But can I ask the panel for our third question? I'm just looking at our time. We've got about 10 minutes. So but I'm loving this discussion, so how do we identify the signs and the symptoms of mental health in our friends and family, but also how do we bring that up in conversation, especially in a loving and in a caring type of way? Because I know that sometimes when I bring things up with my friends, with my family and friends, I get attacked. So it feels like it's an attack. So Fred, can I start with you on this one?
Yeah, I mean, because we practice it every day and we try and advocate for how to do that in our families that we work with, I kind of find it really a timely thing that lockdown happened when it did, and it was a sort of a window for us to start really checking in regularly. That contact that we kind of have moved away from in our normal life, the rat race, the pressures of time being, something that's not really afforded to everybody because of work, whatever, and church and da-da-da. It's really honed or really sort of made us refocus that we need that constant check-in with each other and that regular contact with people that you love. So our friends and our loved ones are the most familiar, and we kind of know when they're not themselves, and so the circumstances are changing. We realize that, and we've got to start being not more comfortable, but more brave to ask the question, like, how are you? What's going on for you? And then the more that we have that conversation, especially with Pacific Islands, I know what you're saying, Johnson. It's a little hard for Samoans as well, but the more that it becomes a normal conversation, the more the stigma of shut up. It takes us to be drunk or drinking or that desperate to be able to reach out and just bear a little bit of vulnerability. But I think if we start having that normal conversation and just realize that to be vulnerable is to be human, it's a normal condition. It's not something that we need to be at breaking point. So that when we keep having these conversations, it's easier for that person that is going through a bit of loneliness or stress or depression or anxiety to say, oh yeah, I'm actually pretty dire straits at the moment, or I could need someone to check in on time to time. Discuss it. The discussion, the narrative needs to be the normality, the normalcy of our to our sons, to our mates, to our aunties, to my mom, to our sisters, to each other, to colleagues.
Yeah, nah, fair enough. Yeah, I hear you. Pulotu, can we hear from you on this subject? How do we identify, especially identify the symptoms?
I think, I mean, we're in the know around mental health, but for our people, mental health is still a stigma. So it's like even raising it, like you're feeling your lows, or that seems to come across a little bit more understandable, because people think once you think mental health, you think clinical, and you think that you need medication, and we all experience it. So the deal is we all experience it. Some just need a little bit more time or support. Some might need some a visit to the doctor for some temporary medication, and some might just get through it with prayer and support from other people. So the loving bit is actually doing that. You know, through the 25 push-ups, people were kind of challenging those who are doing the push-ups. Are you actually making a difference to the people around you on the topic of mental health, suicide, and whatnot? And what are you doing? And that became a bit of a polling thing. And my response to that was, well, for my brother who had nominated me, he was being encouraged because he was seeing others kind of picking up or following up and being accountable to the requests he had put out, and also and help them feel better. So, you know, I think there's a lot of kind of being there, being present, and being, the love bit. Like when they're feeling angry, when they're a bit angrier, or, you know, a bit short, and I have those conversations at dinner, and I go, okay, you know, there's stuff going on, you know, it's unpacking and loving. Oh, how's your day, son? You know, obviously got a lot on your plate, because when he's short, you know, as parents, we want to jump on, and even the mental health of our kids and our boys, you know, they're back into it. You know, all of a sudden, we've just finished the holidays. The last holidays were in lockdown. These holidays feel weird, and all of a sudden, everyone's got out. I saw Liz going for a bungee jump, and everyone's gone down. You know, those things that we couldn't do in lockdown, we were able to do. It was really, really surreal. So the presence of families, just the time, trying to pick up on what we did. You know, as you said, Fred, during COVID, it was whānau time. It was family time. So picking up on that in our holidays. So, and then in those short conversations, hey, what's bothering you, son? Or what's bothering you, babe? That's my wife to me.
Please be your wife.
I just go, oh, this guy John work.
No, thank you for that, Pulotu. Yeah, Dr. Liz, how do we see those signs? You know, Fred mentioned, you know, or Pulotu, you know, we know when things aren't right with our family, and how do we bring up that conversation?
I think, you know, you guys have said some really good points. We do know when something's wrong, and it's changes to who they are, and it could be changes in their mood. I really like how you brought up Pulotu around, you know, sometimes it's anger. Sometimes when people are feeling low or anxious, you see it in anger, and that's how you may know. Maybe changes to like their sleep or their appetite. They may be less interested in things, so not attending events. You know, they're not doing the sports, they're not going to church anymore, so not doing those things or finding joy in the things that they used to find really enjoyable. So there are definite signs that you that can show you or help you to see that maybe something's not right with someone. In terms of bringing it up, I really like how you talked about, both of you guys, around how making it the norm, changing that and making it the norm, having those kind of well-being discussions and breaking through that stigma. I think there are some steps you can do too as well. When you are noticing those things, is that finding the right place and time. Make sure it's a safe place, so, you know, not in a noisy kind of restaurant when others can overhear. You know, they've got your full attention, they feel comfortable, it's confidential, and just noticing, saying, hey, you know, I've noticed that, you know, that maybe you're not showing up anymore to school or to work, or that you've had more sick days, or that I haven't seen you at church or at the barbecues, that sort of stuff. Are things going okay? You know, how are you doing? And really reassuring them that it takes courage to speak up, and that, you know, it's really the right thing to do. It's important for them to speak up, and assuring them that it's really normal, especially for the challenges going on, for people to be experiencing potentially impacts on their well-being. So acknowledging that, and then lastly, giving hope. I think it's important that they're not alone, that, you know, you're there to support them, but also there is other help available as well. But to be able to do all of that, you need that relationship. You need that quality time. You can't, you know, see someone like in a month and then all of a sudden ask them how they're doing. You need to have that other fun, you know, that you need that relationship base there as well.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's most vital. It's all good to say we can, you know, access this and access, but your own community, your own sort of natural support are the ones that know you the best. You know, and we've got the privilege of working for our clients for 10 or so years. We know them like family, but you know, normal conversation at home, like Pulotu and Doc said, make that the new norm.
Yeah.
I hear you, and you know, and also when I look down, I'm not avoiding, you know, trying to avoid you guys, but what I'm actually just looking at a lot of the comments here on Facebook, and lots of people are saying, you know, just thank you for this Talanoa. It's very, very important discussion. And just to wind up here, and I know we've talked about these services available here and there, and I think one of the things that especially worries me is confidentiality. You know, sometimes the coconut wireless goes haywire, and we're saying, "Oh, so-and-so's got a problem. Did you hear about so-and-so?" And it's just the way it is sometimes, right? But how do we? Well, first off, you know, are we? Is it really confidential when we go to these services? Is it really confidential? Is our privacy and is our safety and the topics that we discuss, is it really going to stay between us and the person that we see? And I know with Pulotu and Dr. Liz work in the space of prevention. Fred, you're working with those that are probably already maybe at the bottom of the cliff already. So where can our people go to for some trusted, confidential services? Let's start with you, Fred, since you're already in that space as well.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm a Pacific Island provider, that stigma is there. It's a barrier to a lot of our brothers and sisters coming because of course that. But that's a given. I mean, that we're gonna know people that we work with or that are related to us, or by one degree of separation has something to do with us. But I guess with the professional integrity of each other and the mana of your own personal, you kind of have to have faith that I don't think we disclose anything to other people. I like to think our service is very, trustworthy and deep in our roles code of ethics. But people are always going to think that. I just know that we're there that to respect your journey, and we're not going to be and we're Auckland BHP. We're a massive population, and we like to think that we will provide that security, that psychological safety, that you're not going to be whakakala to my mum or to my church people. A lot of people are there that we know, and I hold that close to my heart. That I swear to God, I pray as a Christian that I will be that person for you. But I know that to seek that support for Pacific Islanders, we like to go with someone. Don't go alone. Don't try and seek by yourself. Go with someone who you trust, your friend, your mom. Yeah, I think Pacific Islanders are very privileged that we have that. Can you guys come with me? And they'll come. They will come. They come to everything. So why not this? Why not be together? That sense of unity. That someone can talk when you're not strong enough to talk, and go to these GPs and ask for an appointment with someone. Ask, even online where the support might lie. Utilize the services like EOP. Find access to your workplace as well. There's got to be a mental health pathway that.
And people can call Lotofale directly as well.
Yeah, we're a public service. We're a public service. We're 0800 number 0800 63 4689. Ask for Fred if you have to. I swear to God, I will try my hardest to facilitate wherever you are in Auckland. If you're in Waikato, we will help you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to leave the last word to Dr. Liz on this. So Pulotu.
Sorry about that.
Pulotu, where are we going to go, Pulotu?
We're going to Liz. But I just want to one quick with Fred. It's as long as you got if there's someone you only need one person to be in your corner to help you through this journey, even if your family, and we know that our family the solution, but can also make it tough because they're also on their journey and understanding mental health. So you only need one person to help you, advocate, support you along that, and they don't have to be from your family. They could be someone within your gym. and which we've seen a lot of connections with regards to safety is your gym buddy, but your work friend or your auntie D. That's another option.
Yes.
Liz
I was just
Yeah,
going to bring
hey,
up.
you just
I was
took
just
what I
going to
was
bring up
going to say.
Auntie D.
Segue.
So
Yeah.
Auntie D, Liz, I know that's
Yes.
that's an app, that's a resource.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about what kind of Fred said. So I came from secondary mental health in a Pacific team, child and adolescent mental health team. And there is that, unfortunately, that perception out there in some Pacifica families and people that maybe we're going to share their information, especially when there's, that 1 or 2 degrees of separation, but it is very confidential. I do want to assure the community that, that is basically our jobs on the line as well. Of course, we keep it confidential for the love of our communities and the work we do, but it's also like we're held to the highest professional conduct, if you like, around confidentiality. So I would really try and encourage our community to reach out to people in those industries, because they will keep things confidential. Different to if you talk to someone in other situations in your family and stuff. I know we're not too great sometimes in those areas, but when you go into a mental health service or a professional service, confidentiality is at the forefront. I just wanted to say, yes, for people that don't want to see people and go straight to that, there's a lot of resources out there online. So Levi, yes, we have Auntie D, which is a problem solving app. We all need our Auntie D. For a lot of Pacifica, we had that auntie, right, that we used to talk to and stuff. So we have an Auntie D app that helps people work through their own problems, and it's really structured and stuff. We also have a mental wealth website. So we believe that, when you look after your mental health, you create mental wealth. And we have Atu Mai, so that's the program that I manage, and it's a National Violence Prevention Program. And we have free e-learning modules on there around cultural identity and respect for relationships. There's also the lowdown.co.nz. We have Youthline as well. And so there's a lot of online resources, but also there are helplines as well. So we've got the 1737. And they have a directory of the different services that are actually available as well in your area, in your locality. So there's that as well. And then, of course, your GP and, your mental health services, your school guidance counsellors at school and social workers. But yes, I would confidently say that, yes, things are kept confidential. And if they, in those exceptions when they aren't, that is the exception to the norm, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Wow, it's been some incredible Talanoa tonight, and I know we had to try and squeeze it into a short amount of time, and mental health and well-being is so important, and it's a conversation that we could talk forever on. And we know that the one thing that I love is that it's starting to, it is starting, the discussions are a lot more easier, what I noticed, to have and to broach it with our friends and our family. But tonight, I just want to say thank you so much to our panel, and to anybody watching there tonight. Prepare Pacific is not a direct frontline provider, but if you're there and you're thinking maybe you need some further help on this, feel free to send us a DM, and we will help direct you into the right areas, whether it be with Dr. Liz at the team at Levi, whether it be with Fred and the team at Lotofale, and maybe just them too. Just, if I get it, but also love you, bro. So just want to say thank you so much this evening for your words and your wisdom. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, Liz.